Hey guys, Magnus Robert here, bringing you another tier list video. So this one's not going to be a very long one like I normally do. Don't worry, I will get on with my ranking the heroes morally video. Like, that one's such a chore to do because it takes like 2 hours and I don't think I'm going to be done with it. So I will get around to it though eventually. Today though we're going to be ranking deaths. Now, I actually did this before, but I kind of did it on less of a specific, I was just ranking the death itself. So now I'm going to be ranking the deaths based on how sad they were. So which Walking Dead death was the saddest? Okay, so I've got a few tiers here. We've got absolute tears, pretty sad, meh, I don't care, and I was glad. So yeah, now the ones that we've got here, the selection is mainly all the main characters with a few extras added on. So yeah, let's get to it, I suppose. So let's just start. We may as well start in order. First off, we've got Amy. Now, Amy, I think was... this is tricky because it's a character that we honestly didn't really get to know that well. We got to know Andrea a lot more. Obviously, in the opening for this episode where she does die, they give her a little bit of characterization, which becomes a little bit of a trick that The Walking Dead does, where they give a character a a backstory and make you feel a bit sorry for them, and then they kill them off. So for Amy, I think it's I think just for like how the death is kind of drawn out and like the moments with Andrea and I think the actress, Laurie Holden, the one who plays Andrea, like does a phenomenal job. And I think part of the reason why this death is quite sad is mainly because of her acting performance. Now, the character itself of Amy, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I don't really care that much that she died. But like, I think knowing Andrea is what sort of makes this a bit more emotional. So for me, I'm going to put it as pretty sad. Yeah. Jim was kind of like delirious. He was a bit of a dickhead as well. But it was kind of sad he died. I don't not care. I just think it's a bit of a meh. Like, I like the death, don't get me wrong. I think it's quite peaceful. You're leaving him by the tree. So maybe I'll put it pretty sad. I think I'd probably put Amy above Jim. But yeah, I mean, his death is still pretty sad. Like, he slowly kind of starts to go. And yeah, I think it was pretty good. Edwin Jenner. I'm going to put this as a meh. Because, I mean, the character itself was built up a little bit, but it was quite clear he was, wanting to Sudoku out of there, KYS. And I think all that was fine. And like, people like to say, like, this happens with every single bloody character, though, where people are like, this character died way too soon. They should have stayed on for longer. And, like, people say that about Jenna, but I don't really know what more could Jenna bring to the story. I mean, it was kind of like a little side trek to, learn a little bit more lore about the virus, and then we're done with that, right? We don't need it anymore. We have a tense finale then in the CDC where the characters must escape, and Jenna is the driving force behind like why he locks everyone in. So it'd make no sense for the character to then leave, right? Like, this guy like is trying to do a mercy on all these people in his mind, right? So why would he then be somehow convinced and leave the CDC from exploding? I mean, he wasn't the only reason why it was blowing up. It was going to blow up anyway. But, like, he of course, yeah, I mean, that's why he locked everyone in. So it would make no sense. And I think his death, like, the actual character itself is fine. I like him. I don't think he's an amazing, cool-ass character. But I don't think he's, like, a bad character. I think he's a pretty good character. But I just think his death, for me, was a bit meh. Sophia, this one was probably absolute tears. I think the reveal is really good, although I do question how it makes sense. Like, I know how it happened. Like, supposedly Otis put her in the barn, and then obviously he died, so they never knew. But then there's like Patricia like feeds chickens to the zombies, and Glenn obviously like shines a torchlight into the barn, and like Shane and stuff like look out. The fact that she walks out dramatically as the last walker, there's all these things that make the reveal, like, the reveal is good, don't get me wrong, but there's all these like things before it that do kind of muddy it a little bit, and I think we have to acknowledge that. But regardless, I think the death is very, very good. I think it's a very emotional moment for not just Carol, for literally everyone. Everyone was like looking for her, or maybe not Shane, but like Rick still had hope, and Daryl had been going out there pretty much every day looking for her. So yeah, I think this was an absolute tears death. I really liked it. Thumbs up for that. Dale. Dale is... I'm going to go pretty sad. The only reason why I'm going to go pretty sad is the death is a very annoying when I first watched it. I think on reflection, kind of like revisiting it, I kind of knowing it's coming, I don't mind it as much, but when I first watched this, I thought it was so annoying because I really like Dale for some reason. I think it's because he's like the one moral character. He's like someone, he actually has his own opinions and he's not just a, Rick stan. He doesn't just fall in line. I like it when the characters actually have character, and Dale definitely did have that. I think the reason why his death annoys me is because it's one walker in the middle of a field. Obviously, he dies a bit too early. I think in like retrospect, I don't really mind that much because I don't think we lost much from his death. But yeah, because Herschel kind of replaces his stuff in the comics, and yeah, they still adapt Dale from the comics. People like to say, well, Dale dies way way later in the comics, but he doesn't. He actually Dale from the comics is in the show up until his death, right? Like, it's just different. They just switched the characters out, right? They still adapt it, is my point, which is what you really want, right? You don't. That's why I'm okay with Dale dying early, because they still adapt Dale's story arc through Herschel and then Bob somewhat as well. So I like. That's why I like. I'm accepting of Dale's death, but like I'm not so accepting of like Henry's death, for example, because my main issue with Henry's death is they didn't. Once they kill Henry off, they don't adapt the rest of the Carl story arc, and that's my problem. Like, Judith takes little bits here and there, kind of, but that's about it, right? They don't properly adapt it like they did with, like, Dale, right? So that's why I was mostly okay with Dale's death, but yeah, it was a little bit annoying. He's taken out by one walker. It's pretty drawn-out, sad death. The sorry brother. I like all that. I think it's pretty good, and I think it coming at the end of his, like, standout episode, I think is quite bittersweet too, where obviously Dale was preaching to save good old Randall. Yeah. Shane. So, Shane for me, on the sad scale, I think it's kind of sad. I think it's pretty sad. I think it's tragic, sure. Yeah, I'll put it on the pretty sad, because it is like Rick, more so for Rick and less so for Shane, but, Rick's being forced to put down his best friend. It's pretty emotional, it's not a nice thing to do, and, yeah, obviously it tears Rick apart, and I think then Shane coming back and Carl having to put him down, like, that's all pretty brutal too. So yeah, I think overall it's a pretty sad death, like, or pretty tragic death. Not less so for Shane, more so for Rick and Carl, obviously having to deal with that stuff. But yeah, and I think how they built up to it was really good. I like it way better than the comics. Like, the comics, it's dreadful. It's just Shane's like, I'm mad now, and then Carl kills him, and it's like, oh, okay, there we go. And it's before they even leave the Atlanta camp that happens. So yeah, it's just way worse in the comics, way better in the show, and I like the build up to it. And Shane was obviously a pretty evil guy, not a great guy for sure. And yes, he was a villain. I hate how people say he wasn't a villain, he was just an antagonist. Like, no, he did pretty villainous things. like I think he's a step above just an antagonist. But yeah, T-Dog. He wasn't always a villain, though, I'll say that, okay? He turned into a villain in the last, like, 2 episodes, right? When he tried to kill Rick, he was for his own, like, gain. Yeah, that makes him a villain now. T-Dog. T-Dog's death was kind of meh. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it was shocking, but, like, it wasn't, like, sad. Like, I do like the moment where he's like, this is God's plan. He'll take care of me. And he's like, I'm getting you out of here, this tunnel, But then, ultimately, T-Dog, I think, in retrospect, I sacrifice is less impressive. Because he, like, pins 2... I know, obviously, he was already bitten. But, like, he pins 2 walkers to a wall. And then they devour him. But it's 2 walkers. Like, you couldn't fucking... Like, Carol, like, season, in the later seasons, is, like, killing walkers with, like... a little knife, I think she had her knife on her, right, in that tunnel, or did she not, maybe? But, like, yeah, they don't use any, like, melee weapons. T-Dog just pins them to the wall, and I guess it's sad at the moment, but then when you think back to it, it's a bit silly as well. Like, why did you have to go through all that pain for 2 walkers? Like, you could have tried to take them on, and even if they bit you during you taking them on, I mean, it's better than being devoured by them. So yeah, like, Carol, you stand back, I'm T-Dog, I'll stand forward. let me try and like, he grabs one of their heads and he bashes against the wall. Let's just say he's got no weapons, okay? So he just takes one of their heads, smashes it, and maybe the other comes in and maybe it bites him. That's okay, he's already been bitten anyway. And then he grabs the other one and he like, like T-Dog's like a fucking tank as well. Like, he throws it to the floor and he just, smashes his head against the floor, kills it. Okay, cool, I've killed it. So now I don't have to have an agonizing death, okay? Yes, I've been bitten again, but I mean, I was already bitten anyway, so it didn't really make a difference, does it? So, cool, let's go, Carol. And then later on, T-Dog has slow, he dies slowly and he's put down. Sad, right? That's how it probably should have gone. The death kind of annoys me a little bit. Laurie's is an absolute tears, okay? Laurie's death is fucking really emotional. It's really sad. Being forced to give birth in a grimy fucking boiler room. And the only way to do it is obviously the cesarean. Maggie is not trained in it either, so there is no way. There's no stitches. There's no medical. Like, she has a choice. She can either die or she can let her baby die, and she decides to die herself. And I mean, I've been like reading like some articles, like people saying that this Walking Dead has an anti-abortion storyline, and this is the anti-abortion story. Which, I mean, not really. Like, people can choose to have the baby. Like, I don't know. It's weird. I mean, listen, I'm a pretty woke guy, okay? So it's not like that. Yeah, I just disagree with that article where it was talking about this death. But like, listen, her death is very sad, and obviously Carl being forced to put her down adds an extra layer. And I think the scene following that where Rick finds out too is it's pretty fucking sad too. So overall, pretty good episode, pretty good character death, and absolute tears for sure. Axel, I didn't care, really. I mean, Axel was, like, barely a character. This death was done for shock. Not that, like, people like to say, like, the comic stuff did it better. Like, I think Season 3 gets a lot of hate. And, sure, it's a messy season. And I think how I, like, sum up Season 3 is, I think it's a messy season, but I think it works, right? So, how I sort of sum up Season 3 is they threw a lot of shit at the wall, and somehow it stuck. That's how I like to sum up Season 3. Because, sure, there are dumb moments, like, we'll get onto it, Andrea's death. But, like, Axel's death is, like, one of those things where it's, like, you take it or leave it. People like to say, well, he was killed off too early. They had all these other story ideas, like him, like, being the killer and killing Beth and all that. And, look, like, who gives a fuck? It's Axel. Like, who cares? Like, it's just some guy, and like, his death is no better in the comics. He's just he's a nothing burger character in the comics who gets shot in the head during the first governor's raid, right? So his death's no better in the comics anyway. So who cares? So I just don't care about his death, really. There we are. Merl, I think this one is an absolute tears. I will stand by this. I know a lot of people don't like Merle's death and they wish he stayed on longer. I think Merle's death is perfectly placed, personally. I've always maintained this view, and it was only in, like, when I started doing YouTube and stuff, I found out that this was, like, an unpopular opinion, which is kind of weird to me. But, like, the reason why I like Merle's death, and I think it's fine how it is, now I wish maybe his sacrifice was a bit bigger, like he actually took out, like, almost, maybe even, like, the whole militia. Let him kill Shumpert, why not? Like, he can kill Shumpert, he can kill maybe even Martinez, who knows, like, maybe not Martinez, but, like, kill off, like, pretty much kill Alan for sure, get rid of Alan. But I wanted the governor to basically wipe out the entirety of the governor's militia, and that was, like, his one, so when the governor attacks in the finale, he literally has, purely just his citizens, which he kind of does anyway, but, like, just to emphasize it a bit more. But yeah, I think I've always stood by Merle's death as, like, a concept, and I think it's pretty sad, right? I mean, this guy was trying his best. He wanted to be Rick's dirty dog, Rick's dirty deeds, and that's why he kidnaps Michonne to hand her over. But then, when Michonne talks to him, he's like, have you killed anyone before? And he's like, no, I never killed anyone before. And she's like, oh, so you're just doing the governor's dirty work, and now you're doing Rick's dirty work. So you're just the lapdog, right? That's all you are. You got no. That's all you do. I think there's another conversation with Rick where Merle's like, I don't know why I do the things I do. I never did. It's a damn mystery to me. And, in this moment, kind of Merle's like, he kind of warms to Michonne a little bit, which is kind of funny considering he's a little neo-Nazi. But, he warms to Michonne, and then he's like, okay, you're kind of right. And she gets under his skin a little bit, sure. So he frees her, and he's like, well, I can't live at Woodbury. I can't really live at the prison. Like, no matter what I do, I'm not going to be welcome at the prison, right? So, and I'm going to force, the only other way is if I leave the prison, and then I'm going to have to force force Daryl to come with me, because Daryl's my brother and he's going to stay by me, right? So Merl does what the only thing he can really do, which is go and attack the governor. Now, if he succeeds, he wipes out the governor and like most of his militia and basically wins the war for them. And in that case, Merl, they kind of have no choice but to accept Merl into the prison then, if he was successful. And if he fails, well, he dies, but he dies, a heroic death, which obviously he does fail. And I think his death is like pretty brutal too. He gets beaten the shit out of, and then his fingers are bitten off, and then he's shot in the chest, and then of course after that Daryl finds the zombie, and that's a really sad moment too. So I think overall, like, Merl's death is really, really sad for me. Absolute tears for sure. I feel like I'm putting a lot in this. Milton's kind of meh. He's just like I think it's not Axel level, but because I did think Milton was like a pretty well built up character, and it was kind of sad, sure, but I was just kind of meh. Like, yeah, he gets stabbed and killed by the governor. Sad. Anyway, Andrea. This one is, I'm gonna say meh, because it just feels like annoying, right? That's my biggest problem with this death. It's not so much sad, it's more so just a pain in the arse to like rewatch. And again, similar to the Dale death, I don't think we lose much with Andrea's death, because again, they adapt things from Andrea's story arc in the comic. So I'm not opposed to killing off characters early that die. Like, if they killed Carl early, but they did some, like, they adapted the story really, really well with Henry, I wouldn't have been so mad. Like, I still would have been mad, because it's, like, one of those principal characters that's hard to kill off. Like, I think maybe not the Carl, actually. But I would have been a bit more happier, I guess. It would have made the death a little less annoying if they adapted all the Carl stuff from, like, season 10 and 11, right? Which would have been, like, comparing it to the actual issues of the comics. But they do that with the Andrea one, so it's not like the death. Like, I don't know if I'd change this death really that much. Like, it's just like, whatever. It's annoying, but yeah. I mean, the death itself it's painful, because it's like she's like having conversations with Milton while she should be getting out of her cuffs, and then she doesn't make it, and then she gets killed, and it's like, oh, all right. And then I do like the line though where she's like, I know how the safety works, tying her back to when they first met. So yeah, and I think Andrea's character arc in season 3, I think, is good. I like it. I don't hate Andrea in season 3, as some fans do. Yes, you can say, oh, well, she does annoying things. Like, people like to attack. What I hate is when people attack the character and not the writers. That annoys me, because I think it kind of, if you attack the writers, I think that's fine if you dislike something. But I really dislike it when people attack the actual character and they say, Andrea's just some dumb bitch, like that kind of annoys me, because it's like, well, yeah, like, the writer wrote them that way, and it kind of like slips into misogyny a little bit, I feel, just a tiny bit. Okay. Anyway, moving on. But yeah, her death was like annoying, but I'll put it in the meh. Herschel Green. This is the top tier, absolute tears. This death is fucking perfect in every way, shape, and form. Obviously, Herschel being the moral compass and getting this brutal fucking death after Rick's beautiful speech to the governor where he says, we can all live together in the prison, okay? And then the governor's like, liar, and then kills Herschel. It's brutal. This death stands by me. It is the saddest death of them all. So yeah, I put it in absolute tears. The governor, I mean, on the sad scale, I guess I was glad, like, because yeah, he's a villain, and there's no one to feel sorry for either, because basically all of his loved ones were dead anyway. So the only one was like Lily, I guess, but Lily finishes him off. So yeah, I guess with the governor, I was kind of glad. I think his death is really good, but on terms of the sad scale, I was glad he died. Mika, this one was brutal, and I think the Lizzie one too. Both of them, like, neck and neck, are like really brutal deaths. Very, very sad. Yeah, I think I got a lot in the top tier, but it's just going to have to be the case for some of these early deaths. So, yeah, obviously, the circumstances behind this were just really sad. I mean, obviously, Lizzie kills Mika, and then Carol's forced to put Lizzie down. I mean, there's not really much more to say. It was, yeah, it was fucking really sad. Joe, I mean, I was glad when Joe died, that's for sure. I mean, his death was like excellent. I think that is probably my favorite scene. The scene where Joe and the Claimers obviously come on Rick and attack him, and because it's like I guess the climax of Rick's character arc in season 4, right? Because season 4, he starts the season off as a farmer. He's not involved. He's not the leader. He's completely cut off from the leadership in the prison, and he just wants to take a backseat, as Herschel recommended to him, which he's been doing. And he's been wanting to keep his son away from like violence and stuff. And then slowly, obviously, for the governor and all that, he just kind of begins to more and more and more, like he kills that guy in the bathroom, kills Lou in the bathroom, but it's kind of like, kind of ish self-defense after hearing what those guys were saying and stuff. So, but this is like, he has to use his teeth like a walker, right? And, this whole like season is the whole theme of season 4 is, being too far gone. And so how can we make Rick too far gone? He literally becomes a walker for a scene, right? He bites Joe's jugular out like a fucking animal. And yeah, I think that's a great death. But on terms of the sad scale, I was not sad that Joe died. Gareth and the termites, obviously I was glad they died. Again, very good death, very brutal, very like it a lot. But yeah, don't really care for them, so I was glad they died. We've got Bob Stuckey. Now, this one, I hate it, but I'm going to have to put it in absolute tears. I mean, this death is, like, it's drawn out, it's sad. I think adding the stuff with the tainted meat and all that, and him having his leg cut off as an extra layer of, like, brutality to this. But also, like, I just think his final speech to Rick and to especially is, like, really touching. And when he like, kind of slowly dies with Sasha, and then Tyrese puts him down. I mean, I think all of it is, like, yeah, it's really sad. And, I loved Bob as a character. I think he's a great, like, 2-season character. And sorely underrated for sure. So, got to give it to absolute tears for Bob. Beth, her death, I've talked about this before, I think was very meh. Because it like Andrea, it's just baffling. It's the most annoying, stupid death there is. Probably the most annoying. It's probably dumber than any Andrea death, in my opinion. Because Beth is in a hallway, okay? Her friends are at one end. Some armed police officers who are not very friendly on the other end. Beth, Noah's like, it's okay, I don't mind becoming Dawn's servant, all right, or slave, like, basically. I'll go. You go, Beth. You go with your friends. And Beth's like, no, I don't accept that. So what would be the logical thing to do? Would it be to leave, pretend like, okay, you're accepting of that, leave with your friends, and then plan to save Noah. B, have an argument and preach to the police officers and say, well, listen, he wants to leave, he wants to come with us. Are you just going to let this woman, who you all hate anyway, you all want to dethrone anyway, you're going to let her decide that? Do you do that, B? Do you C, go to Rick and Daryl and say, mow them all down, right? And just suddenly, quickly mow all the police officers down and hopefully and tell Noah to duck. Or D, or maybe that option's dumber. But D, do you stab Dawn in the shoulder with some fucking scissors? Like, where there's some, like I said, some armed police officers behind her, your friends who are all in a tight hallway, right? All your people you're closest to, maybe not Maggie's there, but Daryl, she bonded with Daryl and Rick and all that, and Carol's there too in the wheelchair, and she promised to, get her out safe. Why would you stab someone in a tight, narrow hallway, knowing it could cause a fucking gunfight? Like, and I don't think Beth's stupid. This is not. I'm not attacking Beth for this. I'm attacking the writers. Like, this is like a really dumb moment. Like, it makes no sense. It's completely out of her character. And that's my biggest problem with this death. And it kind of, instead of me being like in tears, I was just more baffled. So, yeah, that's for Beth. Tyrese, I'm not going to lie. This one, I don't like the episode. I think I like the death in a vacuum. I don't like the episode, right? So I have mixed feelings on the episode, but the actual death itself is really sad, okay? It's just a slow, painful build, and, you know, the hallucinations I think are really cool too, and Tyrese is kind of like preaching his entire worldview, you know, I'm not giving up, and listening to the news, and trying to help people, and all that, and being that kind of moral compass. And then I think the race to get him back to, like, Carol and the others is really good too, where, like, he, like, falls over, and Rick's like, you gotta hold on, man, hold on, you know, and, like, they're all, like, carrying this fucking behemoth guy through the woods, and it's just, like, and then obviously they get to the car, but it's just too late. He's gone. Really fucking... And I think his final line where he's like, turn it off. It's just... it's brutal. I love it. So yeah, Tyrese's death, I'm not going to lie, is an absolute tears too. In terms of how I'd rank them though, I guess... I'd probably say Laurie's is the second saddest, maybe. Maybe then Tyrese is the third. Merle's probably the fourth, maybe. Because it is a pretty sad death. Maybe actually, no, Lizzie and Mika are probably there. Maybe then, yeah, I think Merle's probably at the end. And then, yeah, actually, no, I think it's probably after Bob. Noah, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't care. Like, Noah was like a nothing burger character. His death's very brutal, and I like that about it, but I didn't really care that much about the character. He wasn't built up that much. He was barely in, like, he was in a few episodes. He was in the Beth episode, and there was a few episodes after that. And then he was in a few episodes, like, he was pretty much in the background for all the rest of the episodes. Then he has, like, a little bit of a spotlight in his death episode, and then he dies a brutal death. He's like, oh, okay, cool, whatever, I don't really care. So yeah, Noah, didn't really care. Pete Anderson, I mean, I'm not going to say I was glad, because it just feel a little, I mean, yeah, he's abusive to his wife, but I don't know if, like, executing him like Rick does is the way to do it. But maybe, I don't know. Oh no, he does abuse his children too. So maybe I should say I was glad. I was glad Rick killed him. So, but it's immoral. Of course, it's immoral. You shouldn't do that. But I'm gonna say I was glad. Nicholas, I just didn't care. On the sad scale, I'm not gonna say I was glad, because I feel like it was pretty tragic. Like, Nicholas was trying his best to do better, and he just fucking failed. And then he was like, oh fuck, I'm gonna exit this situation. So yeah, I mean, it was a little bit sad, but I ultimately don't care because it's Nicholas. Eastman, this one was pretty sad. I don't think I'm gonna put on absolute tears, but it is, like, I do love the Eastman episode. I think it is like a Marmite episode where, like, some fans fucking love it and some fans hate it. And I'm one of the fans that loves that episode. I think it's like art. Okay, I think it's beautiful. It's a beautiful episode, and I think Eastman's a brilliant character. Like, arguably, like, in my top 10 characters, I think, of all time, probably, maybe not. It's in, like, the top 20 at least, right? Even though he's only in one episode, and because I think he's really complex. We learn a lot about him, We learn a lot more about Eastman than we learn about, like, in one episode, then I think we learn about, like, Aaron the entire show. Maybe not Aaron, but, like, yeah, we learn, like, a lot about this guy. So yeah, I think his death is very sad. It is a bit dumb though, how he gets bitten so easily. Well, I don't know, because Morgan was, like, freezing, so maybe it makes sense. Yeah, and everything he taught Morgan was brilliant. So. And makes Morgan's character a lot more interesting than just being a clear mode, angry, crazy guy. Deanna's death. So we have, obviously, the first one where she, like, gets bitten, and then she shoots the walkers in the house, and then she screams at them, and then suddenly she shows up as a zombie a few episodes later, which makes a bit, not really much sense. I mean, Deanna's death is kind of sad, I guess. I did like Deanna as a character, although I wish they did a little bit more. Before she went, but yeah, I think overall it was pretty sad. Okay, the Anderson family, we'll just include all of them in here. I'm gonna say pretty sad. Like, I think, again, because we didn't really have these guys around for very long. I think Jesse especially, like, I think Sam's death's very sad, but then Jesse's death, like, it is sad, but, like, it could have been sadder if we actually knew her a bit more. Now, they definitely do build her up in the show a lot more than they do in the comics, I think. Like, obviously giving her the whole arc of, like, if you don't fight, you die, and, you know, giving the speech to the Alexandrians and kind of having her step up a little bit more. I mean, all that made the character a little bit better, but ultimately, we just didn't have enough time with her. Like, they obviously have a big cast of characters that they have to get through, and so they can only allot so much time to Jessie before her death episode, and I think that's part of the issue. Like, it would have been sadder if we, like, knew her more, I guess. So I'm gonna put it in the pretty sad. And then Ron, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I just didn't really care that much about Ron, but I wanted them to keep, like, one of the Andersons around. I feel like Ron could have been a good character to keep around for a bit longer, but hey ho. Denise's was, well, I'm gonna say meh, to be honest. I don't think it was that sad. Like, I like Denise as a character, but I think her death, because it's quite sudden and it's like, you know, mid-conversation, there's something about it that I think doesn't really elicit tears, right? Or doesn't really elicit sad feelings. It's just kind of like, oh shit, oh shit, oh Dwight's here, oh yeah, Denise died, oh yeah, oh well. Like, that's kind of like, so, yeah, that's how I feel about the Denise death. I like Denise as a character, though, don't get me wrong. Abraham, again, I think this one's not really absolute tears for me. I think this one's pretty sad because, obviously, but I think, like, the reason why it's not as sad is they inject a little bit of comedy in there with the whole suck my nuts. And I think that's okay, though. Like, I still think this death's perfect. I just don't think you sacrifice a little bit for the comedy there. But I think it's worth it, right? I think and if you think this is an absolute tear death, that's fine. But for me, it's not. But that's okay. I really like Abraham's death. I think he made sense as one of the victims. Although I wouldn't be opposed to him staying on for longer. But yeah, pretty brutal, pretty sad, but a little bit of comedy there. But Glenn's, I think, on the other hand, is just fucking really sad. I mean, if I'm gonna put it somewhere, I'd probably put it here. Like, it's just brutal, man. This guy who's, like, mostly fucking innocent, right? His eyes popped out. He's begging to his wife, Maggie, I'll find you. You know, Jesus Christ. The Walking Dead is a sick show. Spencer, I'm gonna say meh, and the reason why is because, yes, Spencer is being a little bit of a snake, but on top of that, I think he was, like, trying. I think arguably it wasn't just trying to, like, take over leadership. I think he was poising himself up to Negan to kind of, gain favor, right? And so, yes, he would be putting himself above Rick. And so there is a selfish component there, don't get me wrong. But it was also for the benefit of Alexandria, right? He believed that Rick had taken them down, like, a bad road. It wasn't like he was asking him to kill Rick. I don't think that's what Spencer was asking. I think that's Negan twisting his words, so Negan can kill people, because Negan's a bloodthirsty freak. So that's how I interpret it. If you think that Spencer was trying to get Rick executed, I mean, maybe before, but I think after he has the conversation with Rosita, I think he definitely changes his mind somewhat, because, you know, and also he, like, plans a date with Rosita and stuff, and so I think the death for Rosita hits a little bit hard too, because, like, yeah, because she's just lost Abraham, who was her ex, sure, but, you know, someone that she was with for a long time, and she's like, now, obviously she slept with Spencer, and she's agreeing to, like, okay, yeah, we can have a little date, Spencer, sure, and then, like, so her new man is killed in front of her, like her second man. And so, yeah, I think it's sad, a little bit sadder, just because of Rosita. So, yeah. Olivia, I'm going to say meh. They were building up Olivia a little bit more, like giving her some more scenes. Obviously, like the scene with her slapping Negan, and then the scene where she's like, the guns are missing and she's kept hostage. And so they were building up Olivia a little bit, and then they just to, like, execute her. And it's like, oh, okay. It felt like the Amy effect, but I think it was, like, a lot, you could see it coming, so it was just not sad. Benjamin's death, although I definitely probably did see it coming, I think this one is pretty damn sad. I might put it, like, high on the sad scale, because he is just a kid. He's, like, pretty innocent. He's a nice guy, and he gets killed. for no reason, even though obviously, and it's sad for Richard because Richard was trying to get himself killed, and it was sad for Morgan obviously because Morgan trained him, and that's what made him to break and turn into clear mode. It was sad for everyone. So yeah, pretty fucking sad death all round. Sasha, this is a beautiful death. Okay, although it is like, you know, she is killing herself. I still think regardless, like this death is just so well done, you know, like building up to it all. Like Sasha's been going through all this trauma and stuff all his life, and you know, she's never once been like suicidal before, and I don't think it was she's too strong to be that way, but she was obviously always cold to everyone. And I think in that moment where she like pleads with Eugene, like she wants like a gun or a knife, she wants something to try and kill Negan, because she wants a weapon, because that's what she came here to do. She came here to kill Negan, and she wants to kill Negan. And then Eugene slips her that fucking cyanide pill, because she tries to pretend like, oh, I want to kill myself, right? I want to kill myself, Eugene. I just need to end it. So can you get me a gun or a knife or anything to kill myself with? So Eugene is like, well, I can't do that. Here's a fucking cyanide pill. And so Sasha's like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do this? I can't give it. And then she's like, I'll use myself as the weapon. And I think someone pointed this out in a comment recently, which is a nice way to put it. I'll use myself as a weapon. So yeah, that's what she does. She uses herself as the weapon. And I think but on top of that, she doesn't want to be used as like, you know, she doesn't want to be used in that way where Negan brings her and uses her as a hostage to then hurt someone else. So yeah, Sasha does not want that. So yeah, she does the, and then she drinks it. And I think her in the coffin and listening to the music, I mean, all of it really, really sad. So yeah, and obviously the flashbacks to Abraham too. Oh, they had an extra little thing. Carl's death. Oh no. Oh, it's not Carl. Oh, we'll do Carl first. Carl's death honestly is an absolute. Although it's very annoying, I do think the death is very sad. I think they did a good job of drawing it out and making it really fucking depressing and sad. I'll give them that credit, that's for sure. I'd probably put it here. It's really fucking sad and depressing. That's a good death. Although it is a little bit drawn out, a bit too much at times. But I think like on the sad scale, it is very sad. Morales, I just don't care. It was a bit annoying that they brought him back just to kill him off, but that's about it. But ultimately, I didn't lose any sleep over it. Who the hell is this? Oh, it's Shiva. Shiva, I think Shiva's pretty sad. I'm not going to lie. It's a fucking CGI tiger. I don't care that much. But it was sad for Ezekiel, for sure. Jared, I mean, I was glad. It was a pretty brutal death. Quite liked it. Simon, I guess I was glad too, because Simon was a fucking genocidal freak. Gregory, I guess I was glad because this guy had like the fact that he survived that long was baffling. They should have at the very least exiled him before that, but whatever. Jesus, I'm gonna say like it was shocking, but I just didn't care for Jesus. I've never cared for Jesus, so it was like shocking, and it was like, oh shit, they killed Jesus this early, Jesus. But that's about it. I didn't care for that much for Jesus' character. I think they kind of butchered his character a little bit, where he's like taking the moral compass road, but then sometimes he doesn't, and like he flip flops. That's what's annoying. Like I was rewatching season 9 recently, and he's like, I used to agree with you, Maggie, that we should have killed Negan, but now I don't agree with you anymore that we should go kill Negan because he's been there all that time. Like, wait, what? You agree? So you did agree to murdering Negan after he was taken prisoner. So that's when you were in season 8 finale. You were agreeing with Maggie's plan to overrule Rick and kill Negan. Okay. So what was all that like preaching about like the people, like even though that one guy, that Dean guy, attacked you, you were preaching about like fucking saving. Like why were you preaching about saving when you don't believe that? When you're cool with killing people like that? Jesus just flip-flops so much, so it's just he's an annoying character. He's an annoying character. He's so annoying. Enid was pretty sad, so I felt, and I think Tara, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't care about Tara. Tara is like a character I think was never really like well done, and I think especially in season 9 where she doesn't really get all that much screen time in, especially like the first half, especially just a few scenes. And not really much in the second half, and they kill her off, and it's like, oh. What was the end of her character? Nothing really. She doesn't really have much of an arc post like season 4, really, either. They She has like a mini arc, I guess, in season 8 and a mini arc in season 7, but like keeping the secret about the Oceanside, and then she decides to blab. And then season 8, it's I guess wanting to kill Dwight, and then she decides, I'm not gonna kill Dwight. So like, yeah, I've just never cared for Tara as a character. Henry, this one was pretty sad. More so because it was annoying, but it was sad for Carol, sure. But it was very annoying, like I said, because it felt like they killed Carl a second time. So, yeah. Sadiq. I've talked about it in length, though, so I'm not going to go on about it. Sadiq's death was... So the actual strangulation from Dante, I thought the twist was stupid. I hate the twist. I just... It's so annoying. The whole spy storyline. I don't like it at all. And then they kill Sadiq. Sadiq dies. Aw, sad. And then he turns into a walker and goes for his baby. And then Rosita's forced to, like, put him down. I would have liked if they drew the scene out a little bit more. Like, make it so, like, Rosita's, like, really... Because this is a freshly turned walker, right? So maybe her knife, like, snaps when she tries to stab him in the skull. And so she has to, like... I don't know, like, grab something else. And she has to, like, really, like, brutalize his... I was replaying, what's it? The Telltale Season 2, Episode 4 recently on stream. And there's the Nick's death in that, where you find him as a walker, and Clem like has to like obviously put him down, but every time she hits him, like she like cuts parts of his head away, but doesn't put him down. Like imagine that instead. Like she's doing this in front of her baby. Like Rosita's like stabbing her former lover in the head, and he's not going down. She's just like taking chunks away from his face and like chunks over his... I think that would make it look a lot more brutal, right? Like, and she's doing this in front of the child, and she has to get back to Dante, who's on the floor, like knocked out or whatever. Like, I don't know. It adds a bit more tension to it, I feel, than opposed to her just running up and stabbing him and being done. So I would have liked it as a drawn out. It would have made it maybe a bit more emotional. But I think overall, like, it was a pretty sad death, although annoying. I'll have to add that. It is a very annoying death. Gamma, I just didn't care. I need to rewatch season 10, and maybe my opinions will change on this, but yeah, Gamma, like, a character I never really cared for that much. And her character was designed specifically to draw out the Whisper of War, and that's why I don't like her character. Alpha's death, I guess I was glad. Whose is this? Oh, Beta. I guess I was glad for Beta's death. Lucille's, this is a fucking absolute tears death. Even though you know that she dies and you know it's coming and you know... I think regardless, like, everything that the build up to it and Negan, like, returning and finding her and, like, burning her and the song that plays, like, the whole scene itself, I think is, yeah, it's an absolute tears death. I'd probably put Lucille quite high, you know? Probably put Lucille, like, here. I think Lucille, like Eastman, is another like great one-episode character. I think, yeah, those two are probably my favourite one-episode characters. They're both from flashbacks, though, as well, so maybe that's part of it. Pope. Pope, I mean, I guess I was glad. I mean, I also don't care. Like, Pope was just a nothing burger character. Are you not ashamed? I love that scene. Yeah, I'm going to say I was glad, I guess, but ultimately I just didn't care. And then Alden's death, I think, was kind of sad. It was pretty sad, I guess. But then I also, like... I think the way it was framed as well kind of made it a bit meh, too, though. I'm going to put it in meh, actually. I think the way it was, like... The way it was framed with, obviously, him being... like in the church, and they return back and he's a walker, and like the reveal that, oh shit, he's a walker. I don't really like that, I guess. And then in terms of the other deaths, there was more, obviously. Rosita I'd probably put in pretty sad, just for reference. I'd probably put Rosita in pretty sad. She's not here, obviously. Who else have we got? Lance, like obviously like Lance and Sebastian would be in. I was glad. I can't think of any other deaths in season 11. Probably more. Leah, I guess Leah I was glad as well. I think those are the major ones, really. Yeah, so that's my ranking the deaths in terms of how sad they were. So I think in terms of who the saddest death is, for me it's still got to be Herschel. I think then it's probably Carl. Like, Carl's and Laurie's deaths are actually kind of the same, aren't they? That's kind of weird thinking about it. They have a very similar death. Yeah, I think Herschel's probably the saddest, then Carl, then I think I would say Glenn, then I'd probably say Tyrese, then Laurie, then Lucille, then probably Lizzie, then Mika, I think Mika's death on its own, probably less so. Probably then Sophia after Lizzie. Then probably Sasha. Then I'd probably say Bob then Merl. And then I'd probably put Mika probably above Bob. So yeah, like that. And then in terms of the pretty sad, I think the saddest one here, it's probably got to be Abraham. Like I said, I docked for comedy, but I mean I think that was reasonable. Then probably Dale. Then probably Enid. Maybe Henry as well. Benjamin's probably there too. Eastman. Maybe then Shane. More for Rick, but still. Sadiq is probably up here, maybe. Oh, the Andersons. Maybe the Andersons are here. And then Sadiq. Then probably Amy. Then probably Deanna. Then probably Jim. And then the CGI Tiger. And then in terms of the meh, if I'm ranking the meh, the saddest out of all these is probably unironically Denise. Then probably Beth. Then Andrea. Then I guess T-Dog. Olivia, maybe. Unironically. No, but probably Alden above Olivia. Spencer. No. Jesus, probably. Spencer. More for Rosita, but yeah, then I put Spencer. Then maybe Milton, then Jenna. And then the I don't care. Who cares? I'm not going to rank them. Alright, so that's how I rank them all. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts. Who do you think the saddest death is? And I'll see you in the next video. There's going to be a profile today, but I wanted to, I didn't want it to be, I wanted something to split up the profiles, on the video page. So I thought I'd do a tier list video. And someone did suggest to rank the deaths and how sad they were. So there you are. Any more tier video ideas, please let me know. I'm kind of running out of ideas, to be honest. There's a few series, a tier series, I guess I need to finish. Like the morally ranking the heroes and also the ranking my seasons, which I will get on to soon, don't worry. But if there's anything new, something else you want to see, let me know. Goodbye.